Good evening. So my name is Joni and I am on the Glendale leadership team, and I'd just like to welcome you all to tonight's session, which is, as Micah said, is part of a whole series called House of Encouragement, and this evening I got given the title of Warn the Lazy. So I have given you each a marshmallow and you are free to eat it right now if you want, but if you delay gratification and you don't eat it and you leave it and you keep it till the very end, then I will give you two marshmallows for the price of one if you delay that gratification. My child... It's caused them stir. My child has eaten 4 already, so he definitely did not delay gratification, including going along some of the chairs and eating them off the chairs. So I'm sure you'll do better than that. So let's have a look at the Bible then. Paul is writing to the Thessalonians, and he says in 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 14, "Brothers and sisters, we urge you to warn those who are lazy, to encourage those who are timid, and take tender care of those who are weak. Be patient with everyone." Other versions substitute the word lazy for idle, unruly, or disorderly. In other places in the Bible, the word lazy is known as a person who is lazy is known as a sluggard, which is brilliant, or is known as slothfulness. And I think that slothfulness is like one of the most beautiful words ever. Like, just take a moment and just say it. It's like slothfulness. Slothfulness. Like, it literally is saying, the word is saying, come to my bed, which has got big white fluffy pillows, and just lay down. Isn't it, the word slothfulness? It's amazing, and it just reminds you of rest. But the Bible is really clear. Slothfulness, laziness, idleness, they are not the same as rest, which is replenishing and life-giving. Slothfulness, laziness, idleness, they lead to disorderly lives, disaster, and ultimately a form of death. Laziness is a sin. And a sin is anything that disconnects us from God. Disconnection from God, it robs us of all that is good, healthy and holy. It robs us of our peace, and it robs us of right relationships. It robs us of an ability to belly laugh in the moment. It keeps us trapped in fear and inertia. But there is good news. There is always good news. God so loved you and me that he gave Jesus to take all this disconnection, this pain and suffering on himself, so that we can come to him. We can give him our pain, and we can become alive, loving and living as a child of God, just as we were created to be. So if laziness is something that we recognise in ourselves this evening, we don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay in that place of stuckness, and we really don't need to be afraid of it coming out into the light. To stand up here and warn the lazy is easy. To warn anyone not to do anything is easy. You just got to stand here and say, don't do this, no, that's wrong. That's easy. But what isn't easy is coming alongside people and explaining different ways to live and different things to do it, so that we don't have to stay stuck. And that is where I want us to go this evening. I really hope that we can learn together ways that we can not be lazy, where we can get out of where we feel stuck. If inertia and overwhelm is taking over, there is a different way to live. So, this is what I put to you. Probably both your and my ability to be lazy or not has got very little to do with our physical capability to do something or not do something. The biggest influence on how we approach anything really goes on between here and here first. We as humans, we can change our minds in a flash. We have got great capabilities to make change, and we have the ability to influence more than we often realise. The Bible is clear. Laziness will lead to disorder in life. It will give time for the wrong things to grow. It develops fruitlessness rather than fruitfulness. And laziness is all the more insidious because it takes over incrementally over time. No one sets out to be lazy, I don't think, but it is a series of tiny, tiny choices which add up to a big problem. And laziness doesn't just leave you at zero as if you'd done nothing. It leaves you further behind than that. In my research for this evening, many of the commentaries I found on this passage focused on it being a warning to those who can go to work, then they should go to work. And especially in a community such as the Thessalonians, where they were sharing all that they had together. It was really easy for people without such good intentions to infiltrate and take advantage. And Paul is saying in his letter to the Thessalonians, you've got to look after those who can't. You have to put in a clear boundary for those who can. If they don't work, they don't eat. There are consequences to our actions, and those consequences can be positive or negative. But I don't really want to just focus on work, because I think that laziness is an attitude, and at the root of that attitude is fear. We can be high achieving and diligent in some areas of our lives. And you know what? We can be lazy in others, and this absolutely includes me. If we get to slide 3. So, what is interesting though is as you look through this list, is which areas might make you squirm. Because maybe that is an area that God would like to bring into the light and heal. God, he gave his son. And he came down to live with people. He didn't just stand at the side saying, don't do this, no, that's bad, that's wrong. Because as we said before, that's easy. No, he didn't do that. He came down and he lived beside people just like us. And that is why we never need be afraid of bringing our inner mess to him. He understands. Now, this list, it came out of my head and it's probably not exhausted. We can be lazy in many areas of our lives, including how we look after ourselves, our health, our food choices, our work, our studies, our homework, our musical instrument practice, our personal devotional life, contacting our friends, getting involved in church. The list is as long as our areas or things to do. So how can we recognise if we are being lazy in an area? Slide 4. The book of Proverbs gives us some insight. So let's examine an area of your life. So if something on that list made you squirm, now hold it to account to these questions to find out what is going on. So if it's taken from Proverbs chapter 26. In it says, the lazy person claims, there's a lion on the road. Yes, I'm sure there's a lion out there. Laziness masks fear with facts that are not true, but says them so often that they become true to the person. Because I am sure that whenever this was written 2,000 odd years ago, there was no lions on the street. And it is a comedic way of exaggerating, but it's the things that we do ourselves. We make tales that are not true, but we repeat them to ourselves so often they become facts. No, you don't understand. It's impossible for me to make friends because everyone I know is at work when I'm not at work. So it's just impossible. I've just got to stay here friendless. Or we say, I just can't get a job because there are just no jobs. There are no jobs in you. None. Absolutely none. And we say these things and we repeat them. But what we're really doing is we're masking our own fear. And we're doing it with things that are not true. And the only way to combat that is with action. It is with the opposite spirit. It's actually to put yourself out there. And it's not surprised you feel fear, because putting yourself out there is scary. People might reject you. They might not want to be your friend. I started a book club and I just put it out there. And I put it out there and I sort of, your heart think, is anyone going to want to come out with me? And then they do. And then you go, oh, they do. Oh, this is brilliant. Sometimes we have to put ourselves out there and it's scary. But it's better than staying locked inside a prison of things that are just not true. Proverbs also says laziness looks like this. It's as a door swings back and forth on its hinges, so the lazy person turns over in bed. They're brilliant little sayings, just like they are brilliant. Laziness masks fear with procrastination. I'll do it tomorrow. Later, not now. Don't bother me now, just ask me another time. One of the things my children say, oh, Mum, can I have a drink? And I go, in a minute. And what I mean is never. I'm too busy watching the telly. I just go, in a minute. And they've now learnt that just means never. So, or another one that I do, me and Micah, we do this often. We both go, tomorrow, we're going to start our diet tomorrow. I can't tell you how many tomorrows there's been. And actually, we've got such a limited time on earth that there is only now, there is only today. Tomorrow just doesn't exist. It's not about to come. If you want to do healthy eating, then you just have to start with the meal that you've got coming up. And then the next meal that you've got coming up.
What about marshmallows?
And then, we're still seeing if you can delay that gratification. You are, well done. Oh, no, you're not. You're not. You didn't. Oh, okay, that's fine. Don't be sad, it's just you. That's fine. That's okay. I didn't expect it, but anyway. This isn't you then. Lazy people take their food in their hand but don't even lift it to their mouth. Laziness masks fear by not finishing tasks. So if you do this a lot, you do have to be brave sometimes and actually look at it properly. Do I not finish that front door? Do I not finish? That essay? Do I not finish that because I'm really scared of that feeling that I get, that if I finish it, then it's done, but that somehow scares me? Or is it because you genuinely have got no interest in the thing? And if it's you've genuinely got no interest in the thing, then you fulfil your commitment and then you don't do it again. You say no, and you just don't put yourself in that position anymore, because otherwise you just feel terrible. But laziness, to combat this, it really does require you to look at yourself honestly and to take some sort of action. And the fourth thing Proverbs says about lazy people is that lazy people consider themselves smarter than 7 wise counsellors. Laziness masks fear with an inflated view of themselves. I know best about this. So if you ever find yourself justifying what you're doing and getting a little bit defensive about it, I deserve this cake. I deserve it. I had such a bad day. I deserve it. And then something comes up about eat your 5 vegetables a day and you feel yourself getting a bit... that's probably not... There's something not right going on there because you're not actually at ease with yourself. Eat the cake and love it, or don't, but be at ease with yourselves. Laziness equals false facts, procrastination, not finishing, and a haughty attitude. But at the root of all those things are fear. And fear is not from the place that we were called to live from. But what about us? And what about me? In actual fact, more of us probably have the opposite problem to not getting started or not finishing things, and that's being overly busy and having too much to do. Last year, I was stuck, really, really very stuck in a cycle of overwhelm, and I couldn't see a pathway out. So I'm going to list some of the things I had going on, and I'm not saying that I'm busier than you or not. I'm just saying these things kept me stuck in a cycle of overwhelm. I still am, a mother of 2 boys, 2 young boys. I was doing my master's degree. I was working full-time, but not just full-time. I was leading my department and setting up a new department almost from scratch in a school. I was on the Glendale leadership team, and they're just the big things. Masters, working full-time, children on the leadership team. And that doesn't take into account housework or going to swimming. It doesn't take on getting just food on the table. It was a really tough year, or 2 years actually. And over time, I found that I stopped doing anything for myself just because I loved it. Because I was often just collapsing in a state of exhaustion at the end of most days, coming in from school and grabbing an hour of sleep if I could before I had to go out and get the children, doing anything that I could to just try and make the headache go away. And when you've got a constant headache and you feel really ill, you're going to be in bed. And then when times you cut up, you feel so guilty because you've left your family for ages. So then you'll do whatever you need to do with your family, and that thing in you that really needs replenishing rest doesn't happen. And as you can imagine, incrementally over time, it didn't get better. It got worse, and I couldn't sleep. And at its worst, I realised I'd stopped breathing. And what I mean by that is I would often, not just once or twice a day, often catch myself doing this. And I would be at work and I would be so tense in the whole of my being that I didn't breathe. I had forgotten one of the most basic things that we need to do to live, which is to breathe. And I was so tense. And of course, this sort of pace and mental anguish is unsustainable. And because I wasn't doing anything different or anything about it, my body did it for me. I was really negligent in looking after myself, in that I didn't listen to the warning signs. And I didn't do it deliberately. Unconsciously, I just stopped doing anything that would replenish myself or give me true rest. I would spend ages on Candy Crush or on Mumsnet or on the Daily Mail, awful Daily Mail website. Don't ever go there, it's terrible. And because what I was trying to do was mentally get away. I was so tired and I'm trying to get some rest. But obviously that's not going to give you rest. The glare of that phone is doing something to your brain. It's making it tick over and it's actually preventing you from getting the rest you need. And when you're out of it, it seems so simple. But when you're in it, you're sort of scrabbling around. And I just ploughed on. And I ploughed on for several subconscious reasons, which included, I thought I had to. I thought I had to finish that master's. People had paid for it for me. I thought I didn't cross my mind to ask for an extension. I just thought I had to. I had responsibilities to people. I thought I was responsible for everything, even things beyond my influence. I didn't trust that God would look after me if I stopped. And I had a perception of myself, a self-identity that says I am capable. And so I have to keep on being capable. But I was constantly ill. I had a permanent headache. I can't tell you the amount of times I've stood here and I've been leading something with all of you and I've got a banging headache going on at the same time. I was plagued with ever-increasing migraines, which went on for 2 years, until, as many of you know, one Monday morning, I woke up and I couldn't get up. And we're not just talking, oh, I feel a little bit tired today. It was like my blood had been transfused with concrete. I don't know why I didn't go to hospital. I don't know why I didn't make more fuss, but I didn't. And I didn't get up for 6 weeks. It took 4 weeks for me to be able to go downstairs. I remember walking around Newbury. Do you remember? Like, we went out for about 10 minutes and I had to sit down because my energy levels had been completely and utterly depleted. My mind-body-soul connection was at its lowest ebb. And it took 6 weeks for me to start to come back to life. Now, I didn't know when I was in it whether I was coming back to life. I didn't know if that was what's going to happen to me for an extended period of time. And so I thank God that I was able to listen to him and have the time to make some changes and to look at those reasons that I've just shared with you in detail. What was the subconscious drivers that made me think, I'm responsible for the whole world, and I am not? My story is obviously quite extreme, but I actually think it's got a lot to do with laziness. Laziness and busyness, they're like two sides of the same coin. They both keep you in a state of inertia. One is a comatose state of, I'll do it tomorrow, no, not now, I just can't be bothered. And laziness is prideful, and it prevents us from connecting with others, our true self, and with God. And busyness is like a whirlwind that you can't get off of. If I can just get X, Y, and Z done, then I'll rest tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. And busyness says, I'm responsible, completely responsible for everything. And if I stop, the world falls apart. And busyness is prideful. And busyness prevents us from connecting with our true selves. What do I like to do? What builds me up? It prevents us from connecting with our God because we just don't have time to even clean our teeth. It prevents us from connecting with others. Why would I want to go out on a Friday night with a group of women to do a book club when I can't wait to get home on a Friday and just go into bed? It stops our connection. It just stops being who we were made to be, which is a child of God, living and loving and actually being alive. And both of these things have their roots in fear. But as Christians, and this is great news, we have an opportunity to operate from a different source, from God himself, from love. The consequences of not making changes and positioning ourselves to live from that place of health are a type of death or shadow living where we just get through or we just don't even get started. So how do we move from an attitude of inertia, procrastination, can't be bothered, tomorrow, or I must do it all, no one else can sort that out but me, to a place of true rest in God? To a place of trust in him and moving forwards in our lives rather than being stuck. What sort of principles are there to help? And this is where we look again to the Bible. So I'm going to share with you 4 principles of mature Christian living. I think I've made them up, but they've been made up by like lots of different reading I've done over lots of different years. So first things first, number 1, this goes for everything. Absolutely everything. You have to bring it to God first. No one else can heal your heart. No one else can let him into you. Only you can do it, and you do it through prayer, and you do it through a word. You say, yes, God. In this area, I need help. In this area, I need your love. In this area, I need you to help me. And God is able. When I was really ill, some things happened really quickly. Like almost on that Monday morning when I couldn't get up, I looked in my Bible and I opened this story, this odd little story about Saul, who was Saul in the Old Testament, and he was hiding away. And the thing that had kept him hidden away was his attitude. And his attitude was one of not trusting God. His attitude was one that he felt responsible for everything. So he didn't want to go out there and face his people. And it just struck me. God was quick to highlight for me where the attitude was. But he was also able to bring other things. So a couple of days later, I was having a phone conversation with someone, and they were like, have you heard of the lightning process? And I was like, no. And she told me about it, and I was able to go on a course that was able to help me with regulating my stress response. And then someone else, I was able to get in touch with someone else, and they were able to help me with different parts of my recovery and my healing. And I felt every step of the way that these people were coming along to help me were very much from God. They'd been drawn to me by him, but you have to let him in. Number 2, Unhealthy behaviours or thoughts need to be replaced. For something to change, something's got to change. And you have to be honest with yourself. You need to decide what you're going to do, what you're going to delegate, what you're going to ditch from your life if busyness is your issue. For me, I had to change my working hours, readjust my expectations of what I could achieve in a day, and stop working by 7 o'clock. I needed to, and I still do, need to become aware of my breathing and do my exercises when I notice it. It's really important. Nothing changes if nothing changes. But you're not alone and you've got influence. But sometimes it does take you to just sit there and stop. What can I influence? What can I change? Who can I bring onto my team? I now have little Team Joni. They don't know they're on Team Joni, these people, but they're Team Joni and they're there to help me. And I went to see business coach and she just was able to ask me some questions in a different way to the way I thought. And it opened up a whole new way of thinking. And it was like, oh, this is really freeing. She's part of Team Joni now. Number 3, being able to delay gratification is the mark of maturity, and maturity has got nothing to do with age. So you've got your marshmallow in front of you. This comes from a really famous experiment of the 1960s where they put a marshmallow in front of different children and they said to them, if you can eat it now, but if you wait, then when I come back into the room, you can have 2. So the researcher went out of the room. Some children obviously didn't delay gratification and then they ate it. Some children did. They just sat there and they waited patiently. And then they followed these children for the next 40 years. And what they found was the children who were able to delay their gratification, to wait, to do the thing that was a bit harder, they were more successful in every marker. Socially, career-wise, they were more, health, obesity, They found that to be able to delay gratification was critical for success in life. And that is what the Bible has been saying for thousands of years. Don't be lazy. Do not stay in bed when you can get out. Where you've got life in your body and breath in your lungs. Get out. Take action. Don't live from a place of fear. But it's a narrow path, everyone, and that's why most people don't do it. But it's also not innate. It's not born in us. So if you did eat it, that doesn't mean that you will always eat it. To delay gratification is a choice, and it can become a habit. It is not something which is just in you or not in you. We can always do things differently. Hitting snooze for half an hour every morning can be replaced with a different action. But you have to be prepared to delay the gratification, and you need to replace that behaviour with something. It's not just hit snooze, no longer hit snooze. It's no longer hit snooze, what are you going to do to replace the behaviour? And different things don't have to be huge. They can be small, but they can be just as incremental and lead to lasting, sustainable change. And number 4, finally, remember, you are a human and not a robot. You're not separate from the earth, and sometimes I think that we think we are. You were created to eat, and you were created to eat whole foods and vegetables and fruits. That's what you were created to eat, and you were created to drink water, and you were created to go to sleep, and you were created to go to work if you're able, and this is what you were created to do, and you cannot be the exception to the rule. You might be for a while. You might think that drinking that sugar-laden Red Bull is okay, but it's not. It really isn't over the long term. So when I was getting well, I gave myself my own prescription, and it included 4 main topics, and they included that I would focus for myself on nutrition, nature, just getting outside, just getting outside in the sunshine. Nurture, thinking about the things that I love to do. And also for me, it was thinking about no. Where is my boundaries going to be from now on? But if procrastination is your thing, you could say you're going to focus on nutrition, nature, nurture, and go instead of no. I don't know. So, warn the lazy, warn the busy. Why? What's the consequence? Well, it's ultimately to protect you from the tragedy, which is not living while you are alive. We are called to live differently to the culture, to be aware of what really is that makes us alive. It's not doing what you want whenever you want, and it's not getting away with as much as you can, and it's not constantly working and never the resting. It is the opposite. It is resting and being replenished and doing the things you love and giving your best and turning up on time and quietly getting on. It is living. It's being present in the here and now, connected to our God, connecting to each other and being connected to ourselves. Living in Christ is being able to trust him with your life. It's the freedom to know in your spirit that you don't have to do it all. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to protect it all or provide it all. You have got time to belly laugh now with your friend, and you can have his peace that allows you to sleep soundly at night. And if you have delayed your gratification, you even get a second marshmallow to share.
Hallelujah.
So let's live a life of colour. Let's give ourselves the opportunity to bring our stuff into the light so that we can grow, heal and bless others with our lives. Amen.